Guys, welcome back to the political landscape. Today I'm going to be giving you my 2028 prediction between Ruben Gallego and Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I don't believe that Ruben Gallego and Tulsi Gabbard are going to run, and if they run, I don't believe they're going to win the nomination. But I did get this suggestion in the comment section, and so I am going to do this video. So let's start off with Ruben Gallego. Ruben Gallego's safe states. We have Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Vermont, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Maine's 1st Congressional District, and Illinois, putting Ruben Gallego's safe states at safe electoral votes at 149. Now let's go to Tulsi Gabbard's safe states. We have Alaska, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Nebraska at large, along with Nebraska's 1st and 3rd Congressional Districts, Kansas, Oklahoma, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and Florida, putting Tulsi Gabbard's safe electoral votes at 161. Now let's go to the likely states for Ruben Gallego and Tulsi Gabbard. Let's start off with Ruben Gallego. We have New Mexico. Now New Mexico shifted to the right selection by about 5 points, and a main reason that happened was because of Hispanics turning to Donald Trump. And what you saw selection was a Donald Trump wave, not a red wave. And so I do believe that because Donald Trump is not on the ballot, I don't believe Tulsi Gabbard is going to do as well as Donald Trump did with Hispanics, and this state would bump up to the likely column instead of the lean column for Ruben Gallego. Another state that I have as a likely margin is Minnesota. Now, Minnesota is more left-leaning in its ideology, and a big reason for that is Minneapolis and St. Paul in the metro area. That really dictates the state elections. You see that a majority of the counties are actually Republican, but because of these big population centers, this state has been Democratic. It's the longest Democrat state streak in the country. And because Ruben Gallego is more of a liberal, I do believe he's going to do better in a place like Minnesota. Another state that I have as a likely margin is New York. Now, New York voted for Harris by 11 points, and Trump did really well. This state shifted about 12 points to the right. He did really well in these urban centers like in New York City, Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx. He did really well here, and just in New York as a whole. I don't believe that it's going to shift like 11 points like it did from 2020 to 2024, but I do believe it's going to continue to trend rightward, even with Tulsi Gabbard not being the best candidate. So I do believe it's going to be a likely margin. Another likely margin that I have is Virginia. Virginia voted for Harris by 5 points. It actually has a Republican governor, but that could change with the elections coming up in 2025. I do believe that Ruben Gallego would do better than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was not the best candidate for the Democrats, and Donald Trump had a really big influence in the rural counties. He could really get those rural counties to show up, and I don't believe Tulsi Gabbard will have that same appeal. And so I will see. I think that Virginia is going to be a likely margin, and also Maine. Maine voted for Harris by 7 points, and I do believe, will stay in the likely column. Now let's go to Tulsi Gabbard's likely states. We have Texas. Now, Texas was one of the most right-trending states in the country. It shifted about 9 points to the right from 2020, and a big reason of that was because of the Rio Grande Valley, and Trump did really well with Hispanics, but I do believe that this trend was localized to Trump, and I believe it's because Trump was on the ballot, and so Tulsi Gabbard I don't think is going to have that same appeal, and it's going to be bumped down to a likely margin, which is between 6 to 12 points. And then I believe, then we also have Ohio. Ohio's going to be a likely margin. Trump won it by 11 points. I could see the state trending a little to the left because Trump is not on the ballot. But we'll have to see. I do believe that Tulsi Gabbard would either hold her own in Ohio or maybe do a little worse, but I still do believe that's going to be a likely margin. So that's it with our likely margins. Oh, and also Maine 2nd Congressional District, that's also going to be likely margin. Putting Tulsi Gabbard's safe and likely electoral votes at 219 and Ruben Gallego's safe and likely electoral votes at 207. Now let's go to the rest of the states. Let's go to the lean margins for Ruben Gallego. The first one that we have is New Hampshire. Now, in New Hampshire, it wasn't looking like it was going to be particularly close, but you see that Harris only won the state by like 2.8%, which is kind of crazy because New Hampshire has been a very Democrat state, voted for Biden by about 7 points, so that was definitely an upset, and I believe that Tulsi Gabbard will probably do a little worse because of decreased rural turnout. She might do better in the suburbs, but I don't think that's going to be able to make up for the rural parts of New Hampshire, and so I believe that's going to be a lean margin for Ruben Gallego. And then I also believe New Jersey is going to be a lean margin, which is kind of crazy because in my final prediction this year, I had New Jersey as a safe margin for Donald Trump, which is 12 points or more. And it was actually a lean margin. We see that Donald Trump came within about 6 points of winning New Jersey. And so I do believe it's going to trend to the right again because Republicans are gaining in registration here. And so that's going to be a lean margin, along with Nebraska's 2nd district, which voted for Harris by 4 points. I believe that's going to stay in the lean margins. So that is it for the lean margins. I don't have any lean margins for Tulsi Gabbard. Now we're going to go to the tilt margins for every state. Let's start off with Ruben Gallego. I do believe Ruben Gallego will win Nevada by a tilt margin, particularly because I don't see the turnout for Tulsi Gabbard. Donald Trump won it by about a little over 3 points. A big reason for that was just his strong appeal, and also Chase Oliver, a libertarian, probably took a little votes away from Kamala Harris, and so I do believe that Ruben Gallego will win Nevada. It has seen a strong shift to the right over recent years, but I don't believe Tulsi Gabbard is one of those candidates who have a strong appeal in that state. Now, when it comes to Arizona, Ruben Gallego's home state, I actually see Tulsi Gabbard winning that, which would kind of be really ironic or kind of be really funny. But I see her winning that because the only reason Ruben Gallego won that state was because Kari Lake was a terrible candidate for the GOP. We see that Donald Trump won Arizona by 5.5 points, and that is a lot considering that Joe Biden won the state by a little under a point. That's about a 6-point shift to the right. And 20 Point Action has been doing a lot of work in Arizona. I don't see how this would go to Ruben Gallego in the 2028 election, and so I would see this as a tilt margin for Tulsi Gabbard. And then we have Wisconsin. I do believe Ruben Gallego would win Wisconsin. Surprisingly, Wisconsin didn't shift too much to the right. It actually, I'm pretty sure, shifted left compared to the national environment. Donald Trump only won it by about 29,000 votes, not by a big margin considering how much Michigan and Pennsylvania shifted to the right. And so because of the Democrat Party's competence in this state, I do believe that Ruben Gallego will win, and of course you need a lot of rural turnout in Wisconsin for a Republican to win it. I don't see Tulsi Gabbard getting that turnout. And then I also see Tulsi Gabbard winning, Ruben Gallego, winning Michigan. Now, Michigan voted for Trump by about 80,000 votes. A big reason why that happened is you saw the margins in Macomb County. he has a strong appeal with the white working class and with the manufacturing base. And that really came in handy in this election as he flipped some of these counties like Saginaw County and almost flipped Genesee County. And so I don't believe that Tulsi Gabbard will be able to get, first of all, the margins in the rural areas. I don't think she's going to get the margins. I also don't believe she's going to have that same appeal with the manufacturing base as someone like J.D. Vance would have, as he came from Ohio. And so I believe that Ruben Gallego would win Michigan. Now let's go back to Tulsi Gabbard. I believe Tulsi Gabbard would win Georgia by a tilt margin, which is anywhere between 0 to 3 points. We see that Donald Trump won it by a little over 2 points. And he did that by really turning up those margins in the rural counties. And then he lost a little ground in the suburbs and made up a little bit of ground in DeKalb and Fulton County. Now, I do believe that someone like Tulsi Gabbard would have more of an appeal among the suburbs, and then of course lose ground, a little ground in the rurals, but I still do believe that she would win this by a tilt margin. And then same with North Carolina. I believe Tulsi Gabbard would win North Carolina. North Carolina voted for Trump by a little over 3 points, by 183,000. And I do believe that Tulsi Gabbard will win the state. The GOP in the state is very, very competent. Even though they lost a lot of statewide elections this year, when it comes to presidential elections, North Carolina almost always votes red. And so I do believe Tulsi Gabbard would win this by a tilt margin. So now we see Tulsi Gabbard is at 262 and Ruben Gallego is at 257. It's all going to come down to Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania really shocked me this election. Pennsylvania voted for Trump by 120,000 votes. And a big reason for that big margin was because of Donald Trump's wins in some of these counties that actually voted for Biden. Like, you had Northampton County, you had Bucks County, you had Monroe County, all voting for Donald Trump. Joe Biden had a particular appeal in the state, but once he was off the ticket, Donald Trump did really well. And also a big reason is because of Scott Presler. Scott Presler did a lot of work registering Republicans, getting them to vote out early. And so I do believe that because of these registration efforts, I see Tulsi Gabbard winning Pennsylvania by a tilt margin. In fact, I was looking at it back when Biden was running for election in 2020, Pennsylvania Democrats had an 800,000 voter edge over Republicans in Pennsylvania. And now, right now, it's only at 283,000. That's about a 500,000 Republicans getting into Democrats' deficit. And so that's not good for Pennsylvania Democrats. And I could see in a couple election cycles, you could no longer be talking about Pennsylvania as a swing state, kind of like how Florida faded into a dark red state. And so I do believe that because of all these trends in Pennsylvania, I see Tulsi Gabbard winning Pennsylvania and getting above the 270 threshold, which would actually make her the first woman president of the United States, which would actually kind of be funny considering that Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris both were Democrats and they didn't get elected as the first woman president, and then a Republican actually gets elected, which would kind of be funny. But yeah, I do believe that she would win in this scenario. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash the like button down below and subscribe. I did this because somebody commented, so make sure you comment your suggestions in the comment section down below. And of course, shout out to Diana Barbie, our first channel member. If you would like to become a member, you can join near my channel logo. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.